I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up, live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
Dr. Martin Luther King speaking at the March on Washington, August 1963. 250,000 people packed in. The civil rights leader also was a Baptist minister and in 1964 won the Nobel Peace Prize. Today would have been the late Dr. King's 89th birthday. And the daughter of Martin Luther King Jr. carries on her father's legacy of peace and unity.
We are one destiny, and we are in fact one blood. For he, meaning God, has made from one blood all nations for to dwell on the face of the earth.
Bernice King spoke today at Atlanta's Ebenezer Baptist Church. Her father once preached at the same place. Vice President Mike Pence and Second Lady Karen Pence lay a wreath Sunday at Washington's Dr. Martin Luther King Memorial. On Twitter, the Vice President says Dr. King was a great American leader who inspired a movement and transformed a nation. President Trump uses his weekly address to say Dr. King's dream of a colorblind society is the American dream.
His words, his deeds, they live on forever. And the cause for which he gave his life only gains strength and force and power with the passage of time.
President Trump marks his first King holiday in office, but it's clouded by claims he used a swear word to describe African countries. And Martin Luther King was a Baptist minister and a man of faith. Our next guest says as we remember his life, we can't forget his Christian roots. Gloria Purvis of EWTN's radio's Morning Glory, thank you so much for joining us today. King began, as we know, as a preacher. He had a lot of backing from Christians as well. What does that say about his mission?
I think it tells us why they were able to endure what they endured. They believed in the eternal law, and they understood they were fighting for what would be God's understanding of the human person, that each and every one of us is made in his image and likeness, and we have that dignity because we are made in his image and likeness.
And I know his letter in the Birmingham Jail, he quotes Thomas Aquinas and he says, an unjust law is not a law. As we look at the Civil Rights Society or the Civil Rights Movement right now, what can Christians do right now? I
think Christians need to first of all, reread a letter from Birmingham Jail, because he does talk about when laws are just and unjust. He quotes St. Augustine. He quotes St. Thomas Aquinas. He basically says, helps us understand that a law is just when it's rooted in the eternal law and natural law. And you can never go wrong when you have that framing for understanding how we should look at what laws we have in our country today.
I guess that framing, though, it's so contradictory. I mean, people in society might not want to consider the natural law or divine law, what God has revealed as truth.
Well, I think that's where we can go astray, because the minute that we start to decide that indeed some people do not have dignity, are not worthy of having their life protected because we want to say they are of no value, is where we find a lot of great injustices in our country. We saw this with African Americans, you see it with the unborn, and it all goes back to rejecting the fact that all of us are made in the image and likeness of God.
What about Catholics? I mean, what role can Catholics play right now as we look at the troubles that people have in the world right now, as we look at the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.?
Well, I think Catholics have a big role to play in that. I think we don't pray enough, honestly. I think sometimes we think that the only action we can take is one that is political or legislative, but I think we need to take recourse to the creator of all things. We need to take recourse to God. I, of course, would recommend more time in adoration and asking God to also change us interiorly where we are falling down and where we have certain blind spots. I think that would be a very initial start that we could do that.
Adoration, prayer. I know fasting is a part of the tradition as well. As Our Lady of Fatima said, prayer and fasting, and Jesus said, you have to go through fasting
I
as
agree
well.
with that 100%, and I think we haven't done enough of that for the sin of racism in this country. I know our bishops have just started a committee on racism, and I would love to see us get together as Catholics in the United States and maybe try to do something in terms of reparation for the sin of racism, for slavery, for Jim Crow, all of those things. And I think it would go a long way toward healing those wounds that still exist.
Let's go pray for that. Gloria Purvis, host of EWTN Radio's Morning Glory. Thank you so much.
Thank you.